as a workers' union leader, this is specifically the Kuppet, this is the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education, I've mentioned that. What does this day mean to you, the Labor Day celebration?
It is significant to a great extent that we have to remember our efforts over the years, and especially during this International Workers' Day. Also to recollect on how progressively we have undertaken our duties and how we have really stood up to support the economy as Kenyans, Kenyan workers. And as teachers more specifically, we are looking at how this economy has also mistreated us, in the sense that whenever we want what we want, it is coming against a backdrop of having to do with a non-monetary CBA, which we signed in 2021 and going up to 2025, with a promise that we were supposed to review the same midterm. And midterm is 2023, and it is not feasible because the Teacher Service Commission has really procrastinated on inviting us for that review. And against backdrop of looming hunger and all this, that the economy is not performing. And even today, as you realize that the president steered free of discussing whether the request by our General Secretary to at least consider giving us something to also to mitigate the impact of the challenges of these hard-hitting economic times. So he really steered free, and therefore we remain anxious and very demotivated as we move on. But otherwise, we cannot also not abandon our responsibility as Kenyans. We continue to give our best in the world of work, and especially handling the major challenges in education. We are having so many students in class, and this confused transition of JSS, junior secondary school, which is domiciled in primary school, with attendant issues related to insufficient staffing and infrastructure in schools. So these are the challenges. As we talk now, most of our teachers who have been to co-curricular activities have gone without allowances. And this is something which is worrying, because capitation schools has also not been forthcoming. So this is the state of affairs, and it is not very encouraging. Yes.
I remember you have mentioned something about the CBA, and there's Education Cabinet Secretary, that is Ezekiel Machogu. He said that teachers' union should be realistic with their collective bargaining agreements demands. What would you say about that?
I don't want to comment much about the CS Ezekiel Machogu, because that is not our employer.
Okay.
We only meet at the place of work because he's the one in charge of policy related to education.
Perfect.
But with us, we are being managed by the Teacher Service Commission, who is the employer of teachers.
Yeah.
And we are being so realistic. In 2021, you remember when we were asked by the government to consider not to have pay rise against all odds of the price index, which had also shot up because of inflation. We were persuaded not to ask for pay, given the excuse that there was COVID. And that COVID is not there. We perform above expectation, irrespective of the fact that we have the challenges of the economic hardships which are there. So we have been so realistic. So I don't understand our unrealistic bit from where he sits.
All right.
Yes.
Now, this is the first time the government has failed to disburse funds to counties on time, and a delayed payment of salaries to civil servants. You hinted on a possible strike should the government not pay you on time, and that is once the schools reopen. Have there been developments since? Have you had talks maybe with your employer, that is the Teachers Service Commission, or maybe just the government?
Fortunately, teachers are not the ones who were affected by delayed salaries in the previous month. That is fortunately. But what we were trying to address were many things related to our pay. That our pay was the net was paid, but the gross of the pay was not realized, because the money which was supposed to be paid for pension was not remitted. The third-party deductions which go to banks, to our SACCOs, were not remitted. These ones now expose the teachers and therefore the workers. Those are the reasons which would make us to even go on the streets. For the mere fact that the salaries have delayed may not necessarily elicit such kind of action. But when we are enlisted by CRBs and we are also attached in terms of a non-performing loan repayment, then we are left with no option, and therefore we call the tool of last resort that we now withdraw labor. So that is what we meant. Yes.
Now, speaking about that, in this year's Labor Day celebration on matters pay and teachers' interests at large, have your needs been met?
It is a blunt no, our needs have not been met. I did indicate that we were supposed to review our collective bargaining midterm in 2023. And this is the year which has brought in all the challenges that you can imagine. So our expectations are not met, but we still hope that time is not yet over. The Teacher Service Commission still have a window to engage us. And we don't fear to engage, because by our nature we are created to negotiate. And that is what we expect. We can only threaten to disagree and go and withdraw labor as a tool of last resort. That one we are ready to do, but it has not reached that limit. We met the National Governing Council yesterday. That is not one of the conditions they considered, but they gave us an option to pursue the social dialogue route so that we get to where we can get something from the government. Yeah.
Now, Akelo, from your own point of view, this is last year's Labor Day celebrations. The retired President Uhuru Kenyatta increased the minimum wage by 12%, and that meant that the lowest paid public servant was being paid 13,572 and was increased to 15,201 Kenya shillings. This year, there's no an increment in that minimum wage. What's your take on that from your own point of view now as a union leader? And not speaking for your employer, that is TSC.
This situation is sad. You know, considering that inflation has really shot up. Remember, now we cannot even make trips. If we, like union leaders, we cannot make, when we make trips outside, the dollar is very weak. It is very strong against the Kenya shilling.
Yeah.
And that means that our workers, when they walk to buy anything from the shop, leave alone unga, which is a real issue, transport has really escalated. Almost everything has escalated. So workers are really in very tight corner. And that one requires some consideration in terms of a pay rise of sorts. And which has failed. It has today's meeting, having requested the president in February to attend our meeting, we thought that his coming was going to be a relief, but it has proved to be disastrous because he has not given us as we expected. What he has told us was basically that we should expect the self price of unga to improve once in 4 months' times when maize has been harvested. So that one is not salary.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, let's divert a little bit from the Labor Day celebrations. Now, since the implementation of the competency-based curriculum, that is the CBC, Has it proved effective? I remember you, as Kuppet, you were against it. And I would want to know if there's any change of mind yet. How are your teachers coping? Is everything that is needed to make this curriculum successful been done so far?
Remember, Kuppet supported competency-based curriculum. Support to competency-based curriculum. Because we are part and parcel of the committee which was tasked with the review of the curriculum. And following so much debate about 844 and its attendant failures. What we did not accept was the mode of transition. We did indicate that transition was supposed to be, this was a secondary school curriculum, so it was supposed to be housed in the secondary school environment. But against all odds, the government chose a public opinion poll to domicile it in primary schools, with all the infrastructure issues which have not been addressed, with the teething problem of staffing, and then the capacity of the teachers at that level. We had considered that the late Magoha had already taken 2 years to build about 10,000 classrooms to admit the junior secondary cohort in grade 7. But this one, maybe because it became severely politicized and it was brought to a public participation, which therefore the president made a ruling through the working party that let it be domiciled there. So the whole thing has been shrouded in all the difficulties that you can imagine. As a teacher, I felt that this is where the experts were supposed to make serious, the addition was supposed to be taken to be gospel truth, so that the domiciling was supposed to take advantage of the existence of day schools that we have, and most likely to have it in secondary schools which had some semblance of infrastructure and already existing staff which were already prepared through induction to accommodate them. But there were a lot of issues here and there from parents saying that the cost was too much, teachers were demanding an alliance to be brought to class. Those are things which I think made the decision to be made in a political manner, which has now made the whole system not to start, to have a very good start. Yeah.
All right, now as we wind up, Akelo, from here, from today, from this year's Labor Day celebration, what do you want the government and your employer to do in order to ensure that your needs are met and teachers' working conditions are improved?
It goes without saying that it is the responsibility of the employer to guarantee motivation to the workers. In our case, we expect the Teacher Service Commission to put pressure from the national kitty, the treasury, to allocate sufficient funds to ensure that we have sufficient number of teachers in our schools, and those teachers should be paid well. So those are the irreducible minimum. Yeah. If they don't do that, they don't expect miracles from teachers. Professionals are supposed not to beg to be given tools for work. We are key in terms of what we are doing for the country, because education is the base of every aspect of the economy. If we don't address it, we cannot get a good anchor like Anne. If we don't have it, we cannot have good doctors or lawyers or teachers or even economists. So this is something which must be prioritized. Yes.
All right, should we assume that as your parting shot, or do you have something more to add as we close now the discussion?
There's no shortcut. There's no shortcut in addressing the teacher issues. Yeah, we have got challenges that now the government chose to domicile it in private schools. They must employ more than 70,000 teachers, because that is what will make, because next year we will have a cohort going to grade 8.
Right.
Yeah, and then the other year it will be grade 9. If they still insist that it is in primary school, it is going to be totally chaotic. So that is what we must have. You cannot have workers and you don't pay them well. You must pay them well so that they deliver. Even animals we keep like cows, we give them a very good grass, we treat them, and we don't shout at them. That's when we can get milk. That is what you can get from teachers. Yes.
Thank you so much for making time for us.
Thank
we
you.
really appreciate and honor your time here with us tonight.
It is great to be at KUTV. Yes.
All right, that is Akelo Misori, the Secretary General, like I had said, of the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education, that is Kuppet. We are taking another short break at this point. Of course, we are coming back with more stories, including the developments from Shakahola. So stay with us.